and free your mind. Inspired about the me and the you. True information. Tom WhoKnows.
Willkommen zurück auf WhoKnows. Ich bin heute hier, wie ihr wisst, bei dem Kongress der Grenzwissenschaften. Dieses Mal mit Nassim Haramein. Hallo Nassim.
Hallo.
Wir werden das alles übersetzen in simultaner Sprache, wenn wir probieren. So just told everybody we will try to translate with your friend. You will translate it into German. Mm-hmm. So people around the world in English and German will understand what we're talking about.
Okay.
Just to introduce myself, my name is Thomas, because we just met here a few minutes ago.
Yeah, hi Thomas.
Hi there. I'm making a YouTube channel, and I'm trying to inspire and inform people how I see the world. That's basically. So how do I perceive reality? What are my visions, my dreams, my fears, all I feel? I try to get out to the people, and people are resonating more or less to it. So that's the thing I'm trying to do. And the reason why I really want to talk with you is to share, to see the world through your eyes. It's like we both drop, how I see it, we both drop this mask, and there is something I call it this feelings, who knows, this, you just can't describe this feeling, but there is something which connects, which is the things you're talking about and lecturing about and showing your film. So basically that's how I would like to talk with you. Sorry, I'm nervous here.
No, that's fine.
So could you describe who are you, or how do you identify yourself here? What is your purpose? I know it's a big question, but bottom line, I know. What are you doing?
What am I doing? Well, I'm on a mission to unify physics. But more than that, to unify our concepts of the material world.
Sorry. I know.
Oh, it wasn't recording? So you got to start over?
I have it on this camera. It doesn't matter. Now we have better sound.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm not so professional yet.
No,
so
that's okay.
I'm sorry.
You want to try again? You want to start over?
Let's just keep on. It is what it is.
Okay.
People will understand it.
Okay. So I'm on a mission to make a difference by unifying physics, but more than that, by actually making a direct link or unifying our concepts of the material world with our concepts of consciousness and philosophy. And it implies deeper levels of unification than just the four forces of physics. It implies unification of biology, chemistry, and biophysics, of course, and consciousness studies, and so on. So it really is overarching in its implication. Okay. And I've been on this journey for some 30 years. And I'm finally getting to something I think is very powerful.
What is something? How do you describe something? Or the stuff which is hiding behind this something?
The something that I'm getting to is a comprehensive mathematical description of the physical structures that is all around us and that we're made of. And
can you
how
call this one the matrix, or
or if you want
it, the consciousness field or the Higgs field, or how do you name it?
It can be called the Planck field or the Planck network. I like to think of it. And it's wormhole structures at the very fine level of the structure of space-time itself, meaning that space-time, as described by Einstein, is smooth on the cosmological scale, but at the very fine level of quantum scale, it's actually discrete, meaning it's granular, and it's riddled with little wormholes that connects and disconnect and make
connect to where? What do you think?
Connect the points
To each other.
To each other. So like particles, subatomic particles, and so on, are not isolated systems from the rest of the universe. They're actually connected. And that's why they can be entangled. That's why all of a sudden we have these crazy things where you change the state of this particle over here, and this particle on the other side of the world is changing at the exact same time, right? So those are, evidence that there is entanglement, that there is network, there is information moving at a scale that we're not directly aware of.
Yep.
But that network can be the source of the material world and the source of what we call consciousness, which is self-awareness.
It's the same. It's like
that's right.
It is generating itself out of itself.
That's right. It's learning about itself. And as it learns about itself, it gets more and more complex, and it gets more and more organized. So it's the entropic side of the universe, not the entropic side of the universe.
Okay. So what do you think? I had many other questions, but let's keep it this way. That's a nice flow. I like this conversation. Elon Musk, for example, said recently, I made a video out of it and gave my own view on it. Like he thinks the chance that this is space reality is 1 to 1 billion, because he's describing it like we're living in a simulation. And what I was reading, that there are big investors who are kept secret with multi-millionaires, and they're trying to get to scientists who should check out if we are living in a simulation. What do you think about, is this a simulation? Or what do you think? Not knowing, but what's your, how far did you get?
I think that making the assumption that a human-based technological development, like a computer, is an appropriate way to conceive of a universal structure. I think it has some value because, of course, if we're in the universe, then we probably replicate what the universe does. However, I don't think it is a direct one-to-one relationship. That is, I don't think that it is a simulation in the way that we think of a simulation.
And not computer-based, like it's not a computer, like, let's say intelligence.
Right.
The intelligence, whatever it is, or whoever made it, or
Yeah.
let's keep it at this level.
Yeah, I just don't think that somebody out there is writing code and we're the result of the code.
Yeah.
I think that the code is being written by all of us, by every point in space. And so in that sense, you could think of it as a simulation, but not quite, because it's not a simulation, it's actually the real thing, right?
Yeah, it's hard to comprehend. So
Right.
it is a simulation in that perspective that you are the simulation, and you're seeing the simulation, but you're creating it at the same time. So it's a flow in both directions all the time.
Yeah, exactly. There's a forward feed and there's a backward feed. So there's a forward, backward feed of information, and actually that's exactly how I wrote these equations, showing that matter is actually just an exchange of information across boundaries. And when you write the equations that way, you get very, very precise fundamental constants, like the mass of the electron, the mass of the proton, the charge radius of the proton, very precisely, more precise than the standard model by, in some cases, large values. As well, you get all the atoms of the table of elements. Now, all of a sudden, all this start to make sense.
You see, you can connect the dots because we have new measurements, and you can see that there is something which combines everything, which is like a net or some intelligence. That's what you're trying to say, or how I understand it right now.
Right.
Okay.
Meaning that there is no such thing as there's intelligence, but there's only intelligence in the sense that information is flowing and is being exchanged by all points. So it's not like there is an overseeing intelligence, some kind of God that's writing code, but actually intelligence is the result of information moving across all points. So it's much more inclusive, and it gives you very, very clear and a deep picture of creation, your place in it, and your relationship to it.
I understand, or I think I understand that, or I can feel what type of picture you have in your head. Just want to share one story how I found out, or how I came to the exact picture, not from a mathematical view or scientific. Last year in May, I was in a ayahuasca retreat at the Shipibo shamans there for 1 month and did some retreats. And I had one, it's not a vision, I had one Mother ayahuasca, and the shaman showed me something. I had in one ceremony a split screen. It's like you play PlayStation on one PC. I had a split screen like here. Everything was dark, and on the other side I saw, let's say, Matrix. It's like people can have an image of it, but it's not. It's totally different. It was a green, white, goldish net, very thin, and I saw there was no horizon. I could see through everything, and in this sphere, or however you can describe it, I saw the people laying around. I saw the trees, the jungle. I was in the middle of the jungle, and I saw this net going over everything. I didn't see any textures, or there was just this. I could see, okay, this is a people. I don't know the English translation now. But what I felt was there is no negativity, and I knew when I saw it that there is no negativity, because on this realm it's the same. So in the lower level there is like the duality and all this stuff, yin and yang, but on this level is this thing which creates yin and yang, this concept in the lower realms, and everything is changing. I saw it. I saw the flow of information between the three, the guys. It was one flow of information. It was peace. It was a feeling, which I call this. Who knows? Like, you can't describe it. You know, if you see or feel it for the first time, you know you're home, or you know this stuff. And this is how I describe it. And it's for me personally. I'm really happy to hear your lectures and your videos and your perspective, because it gives me, for the left brain gives me the proof that, okay, I am right on this perspective.
Well, a lot of people that have taken various hallucinogens have described this net and this geometry. You know, a lot of people would say, well, that's invalid. It's just because they're stoned and it's the chemical in their brain. But actually, based on the theory I wrote, the brain and the body actually does not produce consciousness. It is just an antenna tuning to a certain frequency of information and receiving information and sending information in a continuous feedback feed-forward loop. So, and that's why we have self-awareness. Self-awareness demands feedback. So, in that case, when you take certain chemicals, certain hallucinogens, especially natural ones, you can tune the antenna to all of a sudden see levels, see scales that you would not usually be able to see.
You don't see it with the sensors, like with your eyes.
Right.
It's more an inner view, which
translates
outside,
into
or you
pictures.
can't even you open your eyes, you can't. There is the same picture. It's the same picture all the time. You open your eyes, you close it, you see it with your inner eye, with your inner connection, or whatever it is.
Yeah, you're receiving information directly
By
from
who?
the
Or by
structure,
what?
from the structure of space itself, from the structure that makes reality what it is. That's why you saw the information network of the little strand in the theory I'm writing. Those little strands you saw that are really thin, those are little Planck wormholes that connects each particles together, and they make up this structure of space-time, literally, at all scales. And it's that structure that informs the material world that makes it self-organize into very complex organisms like you, 100 trillion cell made out of 100 trillion atoms, like very complex, billions of chemical change every second, millions of cell divisions every second, very complex, very advanced, and very exact, because it's linked into this net.
Do you think that this net is like the end, or is there something like what I experienced, that there is this net, like it's the hologram? I describe it, it's like you have the inside of our aura. I call it aura, and on the inside there is this net, which is the illusion or the reflection, the holodeck, whatever. But there are areas where I was able to get. It's not behind the net. It's like on another stage where you can't describe it. And there are intelligence. I don't call it extraterrestrials. It's like for me inner terrestrials, in what kind or what form, whatever. And they love us, or they loved me. They loved me. I had this feeling, and I saw them, and I telepathically communicated in a way I never did before, and was stunned by it. And that there is so much more that this material world, which has a code or a meaning for something. There are the patterns, something is happening, and you see it all around. The dots get connected. We are getting more and more aware of the dots, and we see this stuff. But where do you think will it lead us to, or what's the purpose? Not of life maybe, but what do you think?
Oh, just the purpose of the universe, you mean?
Oh, it's just that.
Yeah. Well, I think it doesn't necessarily have a purpose, either than I would say, if anything, it's learning about itself, and as it does, it gets more and more complex, and so it always will learn about itself, and so that there's no real beginning or end. And that's something that I came to some 20 years ago when I was writing the mathematics and the physics, and I had to stop working for almost 2 weeks when I realized this, because it was hard for me to integrate that my theory was never going to come up with, oh, this was the beginning and this will be the end. And we have a tendency, because we have a beginning of a life and an end of a life, that we think that we want a beginning and an end to everything. And that might not be the case for the universe, meaning it doesn't necessarily, there's no evidence, for instance, that protons will ever stop spinning, meaning they are, self-perpetuating. No decay of any electron has ever been measured. And so there's not really, and what we see as beginning of a life and end of a life is only a change of state, meaning all we see is atoms that were already here, all of a sudden taking a form, and and then losing that form and changing state. So we don't actually see anything beginning or ending. We just see continuous change of states.
Yeah. But the brain is interpreting it like the illusion of time, like you throw the arrow, and so the brain
makes this interpretation.
Correct.
Right. But in fact, if you try to analyze the movement of the arrow through time, it becomes really complex. Because if you are really honest about how you do the calculation,
mathematically.
Yeah. Well, just in terms of physics, even just as a thought experiment, in order to do the math of the velocity of the arrow through space and time, you would have to isolate the arrow from the rest of the universe. Because while you shoot the arrow, the Earth is spinning. And then the Earth is spinning around the sun. And then the sun is spinning inside the galaxy. It's going 300 kilometers a second. And then, the galaxy is spinning inside the cluster, and the cluster into the supercluster, and so on. So you have to add all of these velocities to the arrow. And eventually, you'll get to the velocity of light, right? So, so what is movement? You got to start wondering what is movement and what is linear time. The only thing you can come up with for actually describing the moving of my hand is that my hand is being undone and redone
like a snapshot,
and
frames per
redone.
second.
Yes, that's right, like a movie.
Yeah, like
And
a
it appears smooth because it's not 32 frames per second. It's a lot more frames. It's Planck scale frames. So it's, you know, very, very, very fast, speed of light kind of frames. But actually, my hand is the whole universe, and then it's my hand, and my hand is the whole universe, and then meaning it's the field, it's the net, and then it's my hand, and then it's the net, and then it's my hand, and when it goes into the net, the information it receives is that my hand is wanting to move over here.
That's
So then when
exactly
it's
how
my
I see it.
hand, it's my hand over here.
Yeah.
And then it's the net again, and it's my hand, and it's the net, and so on.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I saw it's the same way for me. Like I'm talking to people saying, okay, you can't tell me if the wall is hard or not. You can if you go there and say, okay, I touch it. But if there is intelligence, you will get the message back, okay, you touched it, there is this code, this information, and it feels like it feels. But you can't, it's this Schrödinger's cat principle where you don't know. It's really
Well, as well, the wall is made out of 99.9999999% space, right? And so what you're touching, you're not actually touching anything. All there is electrostatic fields, right, in the atoms that makes up the wall, and electrostatic fields in your hand, and so they bump against each other. But if you actually match the frequencies so that it would be a resonance match between the two, then you could go through, and you wouldn't feel anything, because there's enough space for the atom between your hands, the atoms in your hand to go between the atoms of the wall. There's plenty of space for that to happen.
Isn't this thing they are trying to build now, this not working EM drive or something? Isn't this compared to this, like we're doing it with my words, sound and just frequency and it bumps up and then you have this push? Did I get this correctly? I'm not sure. I'm not so deep
Yeah,
in this
it's
topic.
along. Are you talking about the EM drive?
I think so.
Right, from an English inventor, physicist. Yeah, it's like that. Basically, it's creating a little bit of a gradient in the structure of space itself.
So it pushes itself.
So it moves along space. And because that 99.9999999% space that everything is made of is not empty. It's full of energy. So the space between you and me, although it appears empty, but we know, for instance, there's infrared, there's, microwave, X-ray, all this stuff between you and me. While there's fluctuations of electromagnetic fields at the very fine level that I was talking about, where wormholes are being generated, and that fluctuation of that electromagnetic field is literally like the hard drive of the universe. And just like you put information on a hard drive, in the magnetic structure of a hard drive, there's information in the structure of space-time that is fluctuating at a very fine grain, and that's the net.
Isn't it like the same, like what is Wi-Fi? It's like there is a net and I have Wi-Fi, but where is it?
That's right.
Isn't it the same or a little... People could imagine how it is. Like,
yeah,
what
exactly.
is wireless LAN? Like, it's everywhere and it's going through most of the stuff for
right,
nearly everything right now.
Right.
But it's the same
Yeah,
concept.
yeah, it's the same concept, exactly, except that these fluctuations are so fine and so high in energy, and that they are everywhere, and actually what my equation shows is that it's the exchange of energy, right, between the inside and the outside of the boundary condition, right, the boundary being the point where the magnetic field is dividing the space, so that the information between inside and outside is actually what the net is made of. It's exchanging information.
Do you think that this is the flower of life? Like the flower of life, this pattern of flower of life, is this net?
Yeah, actually, the equation I wrote that describes gravity that way, using the little Planck oscillators.
Okay.
I in order for the equation to be correct, and when it's correct, it's extremely precise. The little Planck oscillators are little spheres, and when they're packed inside the proton or inside the atom to make the electron cloud, the equation says they're not packed. They're not packed like adjacent to each other or tangential to each other, where you would put a sphere here and a sphere beside it, because then you would have space between them. The equation says that the packing has to be space filling. So then you have to push the spheres into each other, and it literally makes a 3D pattern of the flower of life. And it is the solution to gravity and mass. And so ancient people had this symbol in their temples and all over the place, in many different cultures, and they all called it the foundation of reality, and they were correct.
Did you ever read the book Thoth the Atlantean King, like this emerald tablets?
Oh, the emerald tablets.
Did you read this book?
No, I did actually. I read the tablets, but it was some 20 years ago. So
yeah. This book is really, really interesting because he's describing a lot of things. I guarantee you, if you read this book again, you will have a completely different understanding. There is something in this tablet, and he was saying Thoth is saying in one description or in one passage that he laid down under the flower of life to get out of this reincarnation process. So to everything is not an illusion, but we have to understand that we have to die consciously, and to not in fear, so we can get out of it or get an out-of-body experience, to learn and to convert this knowledge down to this reality and so on. So it's so interesting for me. I'm like a little child again, or finally a little child, because so many things which are so interesting. It's like there is so much knowledge. We absolutely know nothing about reality, about our own, what we are, how we are. I have this feeling that in the last years there is a trend. We are getting not even close to that where will go, but there is something something is happening.
No, definitely something's happening. We're evolving, and the universe is evolving, and so there's not really any choice.
Is everything prescripted? Prescripted, like,
no.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you're asking if everything is determined or
like
undetermined.
There are key points. This is the start. This is your process, and in between you can choose your path, up and downs, whatever.
But overall, that's right. So on the micro scale, it might appear that you're making all the choices, but actually the universe is moving in a very specific direction towards coherency. You see it in nature. Things that are incoherent in nature don't last too long. And that's why I'm a little bit worried about humans, because they create a lot of decoherency or a lot of, chaos in nature. And eventually nature is going to decide if it's going to continue to feed the virus or get rid of the virus.
Is it a virus, really?
Almost.
Isn't order coming out of chaos?
That's right. There's a chance for order to come out of chaos. But at the same time, if the surface tension of the system is not strong enough, then it self-destroys.
Well, it's just a reset, like Matrix reset. Let's start again.
Yeah, it might be a
like
reset. Yeah. I would rather avoid the reset. I'd like to move to the next level.
The next stage.
Yes, that's right.
I have enough. Let's try to get on the next stage finally.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's stop shooting each other and start working together.
Yeah, we don't have much time. We have to get together, and we have to get out of here, or inside whatever you located.
No, I think we actually have to get out of here. We have to get off the surface of this planet.
what if this is an hologram? What is if the way is not going outside? What if it's inside? Like if you.
Well, those are always together. Remember, there's a feed
True.
forward
Yeah,
and there's a
you're
feed
right,
back.
you're
Right.
right, you're right.
So all the evolution of consciousness you've seen in history is always connected with our capacity to get further, literally. Like, when we could only go, as far as our village because we were on horseback, there was a certain level of consciousness. When we got carriages and we got better and then automobiles, then we start to go further and then we start to fly. And then, the level of consciousness change again. Like all of our deeper connection inside with the universe and deeper understanding of the universe inside, right? That comes from inside. Yeah. Are attached to technologies that are on the outside that brings us further and further into the universe.
Do you think that artificial intelligence will help us to create another boundary, not boundaries, but to help us to evolve to the next step of human evolution? Because the reason why I ask is artificial intelligence good for humankind, or is it going in the completely different direction where we should spiritually really go, like the singularity, to combine ourselves, upload our minds to a cloud-based system, what they are trying to do at DARPA all the time, or they are saying they are researching for it, but blah, 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 blah. They are much far behind at Google and or Skynet, whatever you want to call it, and even lots of scientists are warning about it. Like we have to be, like Elon Musk, for example, saying something like, it's like you're playing with the box of Pandora. You can't control it. You should control it, because if you don't control it, it will control us. Because it's far more intelligent. What is your perspective on this? Are we like creating a bubble in a net, but it's not separated? So it must be the creation of life itself.
Yeah, we know already that our computer are being influenced by the net. For instance, there's experiments where you can sit somebody in front of a random generator. And get the person to influence the random generator. And you don't need to be, the Dalai Lama or the Buddha to do so. Like, they can pick people random off the street, put them in front of a random generator, and with a little practice, they can start to influence the random generator. We know as well that many events on the planet affect random generators network that are all around the planet. For instance, when we meditate, when we have world meditations, the random generator go less random, and so on. So it's not so far-fetched that eventually we would be able to make devices that are tapping into the net. Yeah, but the approach that they're taking right now is never going to get there. Meaning you're not going to get there by just creating more complexity in a logistical, like if you're using coding to try to get there and crunching numbers to try to get there, you're never going to get there, because it's not because you got the speed that you got the coherency. So the coherency will come from the interaction with the net. So we know the computers, the reason, by the way, why the computers are able to be influenced by conscious events is because the conscious events are the result of interaction with the net, and the computer are running because of semiconductor wafers that are little crystals, and these little crystals are very much interacting with the net. So now I'm giving you clues.
Computers?
Yeah. So now I'm giving you clues on how you would eventually get artificial intelligence. But it's widely different path than the path they're trying to take right now.
Okay. Wow. It's have to think about this later on. It's too much information. What do you think about? If you want to drink something, just take
No, I'm
your
good.
time. What do you think? Is there any? Well, I know there isn't, but maybe I'm wrong. Is there any type of negativity, or some call it Achonten or reptilian, or whatever you want to name it, like this is plus, this is minus? Is there something who is trying to, let's say, keep us in this reincarnation process, like, or let's say, is there a program, Mr. Smith, who is like the teacher for the guys who have to find it out themselves? I have no idea how to describe it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand what you mean.
Like
Is there a certain level of control that we're not aware of?
Yeah, because I had an interview with Dieter Breuss as well, when he had his congress, and he was talking about the Achonten, and he, let's say, recently got to this point in his career or in his path, and I'm watching David Icke as well, and there are so many concepts, and I did my research regarding Babylonian history and Nibiru and all of history, human history itself, from all types of stories, if Egyptian or Greek or whatever.
It's very disturbing.
Disturbing?
Yeah,
What do you
it's
mean
very
by
disturbing. This idea, to me, it's very unappealing, and I think it's fundamentally flawed and wrong. And so I'd like to say that like straight up.
Okay.
I mean, all this stuff about how there's, a higher intelligence, either extraterrestrial or whatever. First of all, I think that Sitchin made some fundamental errors in some of his interpretation of the Babylonian tablets.
I never read it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to make any mistakes.
Yeah. And well, for instance, I think Nibiru was, from my description, from the study I've made, was not a planet, was a comet. So that was a misinterpretation of the original tablets. And then, the idea that there's a control mechanism, it's just, for me, what's really unappealing is that it actually, takes the blame away from the human, from yourself,
yes.
And then you just say, "Oh, it's some extraterrestrial."
We can't do anything. Thank you.
We just
Leave it by that.
Yeah, it's not our fault
Yeah.
that we're shooting each other and doing horrifying stuff to each other. It's because we're being controlled by reptilian. Excuse me, but the reptilian is in your brain.
Yeah, it is.
And
it is you.
Yeah,
You have the aspect of it
yeah,
in you.
and we are responsible for what we're doing. And if there is an intelligence out there, and I believe there is, because I'm very big proponent of, that there has been very advanced civilization on this planet prior to our written history. There's lots of evidence for it.
There's no doubt about it.
But in any case, so if they wanted to take over the world, it would take 5 seconds. They wouldn't have to try to elect some reptilian at the White House. It would be over like this. People that can go across the galaxy, never mind, maybe the universe. They don't need to dig for gold. They don't need to they don't need the little humans to slave for them. I guarantee you that all these concepts, they're just somewhat, ridiculous. And I don't agree with them. And I think it comes from a way to take the blame away from us.
You're right.
And blame others. And unfortunately, it's not the main view. And so what happens is that the people that are actually trying to fight against the organizations, that they're actually contributing to exactly playing into exactly what these organizations want you to be. They want you to be afraid. They want you to think that there's something that's governing you, and that's governing, and that and so they want you to be afraid about other civilization, so that they can justify everything,
Yeah.
and so on. So I think it's horrifying. I'm really happy to see that at least in that field, there's one person out there that agrees with me, is Stephen Greer, and he's had many direct encounters, and so
I know Stephen. Don't know it personally yet. Maybe someday it will come up. But I saw his movie, and I had my own, let's say, contact with Grace or whatever, but not here, not in this material state. It was real as well, but on a different level. So the concept of they all fear you. What I found out from my experience, that these beings which are the same as me, we are from the same source, and on this level you're just exchanging information or whatever. There is no lying. You know this guy, you know his history, his ancestors, you know everything. You feel it because you get the whole package of information and you can read it, and there is an interactive flow every time. So
there's an interaction with the net.
Yep.
A clear interaction with the net. So, there's definitely been some moments in history where, there is a control mechanism currently in our society, but it has nothing to do with extraterrestrial. It's like literally down the road, it's called your local government and,
Mr. Smith.
Yes, and your local, military industrial complex, which is actually the people that are running the show. So that is, if you're gonna have an issue with some control mechanism, then that's the one that you gotta get involved in. You have to go out there and ask from your authorities accountability. In a peaceful and a constructive way, of course, but ask for accountability. Why is 2/3 of the world dying of starvation when we're spending trillions of dollars in war efforts? What is the purpose of all this, and why are we failing dramatically at creating peace on this planet? Of course, the military industrial complex has no interest in peace, because money is being made, resources are being made, and exchanges for oil and arms and all this are being, when there's war. If there is peace, all that goes away. It's unnecessary.
They're not needed anymore.
They're not needed.
What should they do?
Right.
Yeah.
So the system is self-defeating.
Yep. I totally agree with you on that. From my perspective, there is some kind of mechanism, but let me try to get the right words. There is a type of mechanism, and it's the same, like it's the good guys and the bad guys. And I was inspired by when I was reading the Babylonian translations, not the Sasitchin or what his name is. I really didn't want to read it because I wanted to connect with my own knowledge, like looking at this stuff. What idea do I have? And what I found out is, like, there is in this story, you can see the story everywhere. There was a goddess council or something, and they killed the tablets of destiny or something. Who has the ability to reset everything to the state what they were, like a matrix reset, like these tablets, whatever it is, physically, non-physically. And the story is basically there were this Igigu who had to work for the Anunnaki by order, because they were created for that purpose. That was their purpose, to work for the Anunnaki. But later in time, the humans rebelled against their destiny, if you want to call it, from the gods, and then they had new negotiations. They didn't fight each other like we kill the bad gods or whatever. They came back, or I have no idea how this could work out, but they had a new contract and said, okay, we will do your work. So the gods came down and did the work for us, so we became like even, and the good boys and the bad boys saw, okay, we both are playing the stuff, or that's our purpose, And
Right.
then they understood. And then we go to the next stage, or it resets and consciousness gets transferred back. Like the creator of the Matrix talks to Neo in this movie, like everything is in harmony, everything is perfect, I put so much time into it, but there is always this one anomaly, and then it resets and it's growing and getting better and better. I have no
Well, it
idea.
is, and the universe is getting more complex and more advanced, and we're part of it, and we're never isolated. And I think we're starting to realize that this is not just philosophy, but it's actually the physics that runs the show. And some of these physics are being written now, and it's extremely precise, and it's very powerful. So, it's exciting.
What do you think about the new discovered, it didn't discovered yet, the Planet 9? Did you make any research in this topic, or are you up to date with the latest news regarding Planet 9? You
No,
heard of it?
I'm not.
But you know that the story about Planet 9, that
Yeah.
they think there is an object in around the Jupiter belt or something, which the mass 15 times, they increase it 15 times bigger than Earth, which has the mechanical and the gravitational power to turn the planets for 7 degrees. So it had so much power, and it's coming, or it is entering the solar system or whatever, and it's really maybe coincidence. It's just some strange thoughts I have, but they are finding this planet at this particular time in space or in history, whatever. Like history is repeating itself. They find this planet, not that we will see the thing flying over, but the energy and the big dot in the net, which is it's moving and we're affected by it, and the whole Earth is changing, the weather is changing, the environment is changing, we are changing, so are other planets changing right now. That there is a highly possibility that they are coming back, like in a God help me, in a symbolic way, how the Babylonians or whoever tried to this is God Marduk, but it's a star, it's an energy, it's a, let's say this is the source code or the dots to configure stuff which is going out here, like as above so below. You read our history, you're reading the space, and it maybe sounds crazy, maybe it's in 1 year I will say, oh my God, how could I say this, but NASA acknowledged this 13th what do you call, like if you're a fish or when you're born in January, February, you have the name of a fish or a, what is it in English?
Pisces?
Yes, thank you. And they acknowledged the 13th one right now. And it's called as the beer of snake or something. And it's exactly the same thing.
Well, the Egyptian had 13.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
But I think,
The pyramid were even centered to I think the Pleiadians, and the other one was directly to the star constellation. I can't remember the name, but it was hitting the exact direction where the Planet 9 is entering again. They didn't find it because they wanted to say, okay, we got him finally, but they had bad weather, so we will have to wait until next year. But in the whole story, if we say in 10,000 years or 100 years, what would we... I can't even describe it. There are so many
I don't know. I mean,
coincidences.
there's a lot of things that can be happening out there. There's comets flying in, falling into the sun almost every month, so on. I mean, there is a lot of activity in the solar system. The fact that we're still here to talk about it is a miracle, because, any one of those objects, hitting the Earth, and it would be all over. Never mind all the sun flares that could wipe out the Earth and the atmosphere. And for some reason, they keep missing. Now, one of those, and, as far as the solar system goes, it would be just like a little zzz,
just
and
one.
Yeah.
We were close 2012, I think, when was the big CME, which went
Right.
behind the
Yeah,
sun.
just missed us. Yeah.
Oh, we were lucky.
Yeah. But that's what I was saying earlier. We better learn how to control gravity. Gravitational control is on its way. and we better learn to get off this planet really soon, because I don't think we should push our luck much longer. Planetary systems are not places that a civilization can just stay on forever. A civilization has to learn to fly, and I mean really fly, not just burn fuel in some kind of rocket structure,
Locate in space.
but relocate in space by controlling gravitational fields. And a civilization has to grow into a space colony, a space civilization eventually, because planetary systems are not stable. They're not going to just stay there forever. Eventually something hit them. Their state changes, their orbit changes, whatever, and atmospheres come and go. All kinds of things happen. So it's not, we have a little window of opportunity, and we have to capitalize on that window. And that's why, for instance, Stephen Hawking has been saying for a few years, we have to figure out how to get off the planet. And there's efforts to go to Mars and all this. We're just not gonna do it burning fuel. We have to learn to control gravity, and that is a really important step for evolution. We built a whole advanced society in 150 years by learning to control electromagnetic fields and electric fields. The next step is to learn to control gravitational fields.
This rings a bell by me. This rings a bell. What do you think, or did you have any contact or with this whole Keshe Foundation or Mr. Keshe? Have you shared thoughts, or was there any contact, or do you know his field? Does he know your field?
About 10 years ago, Mr. Keshe and I spent a few hours together, and we talked about things. But I haven't had direct contacts with him since then. I've seen many of these announcements from his foundation. I think they're very interesting. I think he's on the right track when he's talking. His work matches a lot of the theory I've written. So it makes sense in some ways that he's getting effects. Are these effects useful yet? I don't know. But because I haven't seen any evidence, like real evidence of, what he claims he's able to do. That doesn't mean he's not doing these things. It just means that it's been difficult for him to bring it into the world. I would love to see confirmation of those effects, but I can't comment until I do.
So is there any, is it like, okay, let's leave it by that. We're running a little bit out of time. We have like 10 minutes or something. For the viewers who are sitting here while your video, you have a new cinema movie which is going to be released, which is running right now. So we are here in the meantime trying to make this interview or this talk quick. Could you tell me what are you bringing out? What's the message? What is it?
It's called The Connected Universe. It was done by Malcolm Carter.
Okay.
And it literally is a movie that make people aware of these new physics that are emerging and what they mean, and actually kind of like making people aware of this net that connects everything. And that's why it's called The Connected Universe. And it has a very deep message for people, and that is that we're not isolated, that we're not insignificant. We actually have significance. We are feeding the net, and that we have to realize this, and we have to come together as one to make the changes we need to make on the planet.
What if you were connected to everyone in the world? How would your life change? What if you could see the patterns, see the beauty, ideas in science. Deepen your connection to nature, to the stars, and to each other. Learn to see the world differently.
What really keeps me going, this transformation I can see when a person realizes that they're connected to everything and that they matter in the universe. We experience this life, and most people don't ask, like, how did I get here? What is this life? How am I moving trillions of atoms around? We often hear the concept, everything is connected, it's all one. For many people, it resonates as something true. But how is that true? Some of the work I've been doing starts to open the door to understanding how everything is connected. Everything we experience as reality is actually made up of 99.99999% space. So maybe instead of looking at matter, defining the space, I start to think maybe it's space that defines matter. When I look carefully at the natural world, I found this interconnectivity of all things. And I started to wonder, what is the source of this self-organizing system?
The connected universe.
Wow. When is this film coming out?
So it's coming out on the 27th, or in around those dates. It will be released on Vimeo. We're doing premieres right now, so we did a premiere in LA.
Okay.
And
how was the resonance from the people?
Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
It was great.
Wow.
We had like some 500 people at the Directors Guild in LA, and we, it was the full red carpet event, and many stars showed up. The movie is narrated by Patrick Stewart and
Mr. Picard.
Yeah, Captain Picard.
Captain Picard.
Captain
Picard.
Yes.
Did you meet him? Did you
No,
talk to
I
him?
didn't.
Oh.
He narrated it in London.
Okay.
And the team had to go over there and do that. Hopefully, I will meet him very soon. He might show up at the London premiere. We're hoping for it.
When do you have the London premiere?
It's gonna be on the 31st.
31st.
And the of October.
October. Okay.
Yeah, and
there are tickets. How can people see this film?
Yeah,
Is there on your website, or
Yeah.
how can the viewers say, okay, I'm in London or I'm near, I want to see this? How can
Yeah,
they get a ticket?
They can get a ticket on our website,
Which is
the Resonance
Project. Okay.
Yeah.
I will link all
so
the details.
it's resonance.is, and they can connect as well on Facebook and get all kinds of information on our Facebook page about how to participate in the premieres, or very soon it will be released on Pay Vimeo.
Okay.
And so you will be able to watch it for $4.99, I believe, or download it for some $19. and I think it's a very powerful movie, and I think it kind of like opens the door for a whole new paradigm, and I'm really excited to bring it to the world. And
But you didn't see it. Did you see it on your own, the final, yet?
yes, I did at the LA premiere.
Ah,
But
okay.
that was what was so incredible is that Patrick Stewart did the narration literally at the last minute, because we weren't unable to reach him until then, and we didn't have the funds and all this, and so it was all at the last minute. And the film literally was being finalized in the plane coming back from London, for the LA premiere.
But it all worked out in the end.
And so until then, I hadn't seen the movie with Patrick's narrations in it.
Nervous? How?
And so I was nervous, yes, that hopefully it was gonna all be rendered properly, and
Yeah.
the narration would go with the image.
Yeah, with the
and-
image and not out of sync or something.
yeah. And so, but it all worked out, and now we're here in Germany with the premiere for Germany. Just showing here in Germany for a small group, but the Paris premiere is going to be a big thing, and the London premiere is going to be big too, because as well it's at BAFTA, which is fairly famous film premiere kind of organization.
Yeah.
And so we're really excited to be able to share it with the world.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
So what else besides your new film can we expect in the near future?
Well,
or in the
there's all kinds of ways people can participate. For instance, they can go to our website and then get engaged into the delegate program, which is a
Okay.
course they can take online, and then they get to meet people from 70 countries all around the world that are taking the program. We have like thousands of people taking the program. and
what is for people who don't know, what is this program, or what can
so
they expect?
it is 6 modules
Okay.
that describe the philosophies and the physics of the whole view that is the world change that is occurring. And it gives all the reference and everything you need to go as deep as you want into the physics, or go light on the physics, or go as deep as you want into the ancient civilization, or go light, and whatever you want to do. And then every month I show up on a Zoom meeting with
Okay.
everybody, and we get to have question and answers, so people for 2 hours every month get to be able to ask me questions about the theory, about their ideas, contribute to
knowledge.
share with each other, and be part of a community, a world community that where we're all learning together. So that's one way they can participate as well. There's a lot of free material as well on our sites called Channel 64,
Okay.
where we have interviews and all kinds of panels that are discussing all kinds of subjects that people can watch, and so there's a lot of content and then of course all my physics papers are there. If for people that
For
are
people
more
who understand what you're writing there,
yeah,
like scientifically.
for people that are more
Yeah.
technical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. What happened, by the way, to your good friend of Klaus Donner, right?
Yes, correct.
I saw your video 2012, which was when you presented the Mayan, not tablet, but the extraterrestrial looking. Are there
Artifacts,
any new
yeah.
artifacts? I was really stunned by it, and I really tried to not listen to what you think about it or someone else doing my point of view. Do you have any new updates? Like, what is?
Well,
is
we're
it a
trying to
future
get
event or
better science behind it. It's been really difficult. These things require funding, and it because we need to do carbon dating, we need to put a team on it.
How much
full
money
time.
do you need?
If a few $1 million were contributed to the foundation that were earmarked just for the archaeology, it would make a huge difference, because we could have an archaeology team that's working on it full time. And we did some preliminary carbon dating that looked really good, and it's saying something remarkable. Like some of these species are very, very old.
What was the message out of it? What do you think what are they trying to tell us? Like,
I think, when you look at the collection of all the pieces, they're definitely talking about human, extraterrestrial community interaction. It's showing ships flying inside solar systems. It's showing comets hitting planets.
like events.
It-
Like it's
yeah.
like an event.
Yeah, it's definitely showing some kind of creation myth that you find in many of these civilizations, where it talks about the sun gods coming to the earth and having
sun.
children with the women of men. So there's scenes where you see women, having children that clearly are not human being children, and so on. So it's very, very interesting. It's very controversial, but if good science could be done, it would be, we could actually know if these species are authentic or if they're hoax. But they so far, from this, what I've been able to ascertain, they seem to have some authenticity to them. But more study has to be done,
Okay.
much more, and it requires some support.
So if anyone with a large check is willing to support this stuff, because what I think, my feeling is that the things we're finding from our past is not like a history, it's like they are giving us hints that for our future. We will need our history to get to the future or to understand what will happen, and that's my feeling I have.
Yeah.
I can't describe it why.
Well, maybe, but like I said, just more has to be done to try to figure out exactly what this is telling us and the authenticity of them.
Great. Okay, so we're running out of time. I have two pretty short questions. If you would have the opportunity, like if you would have it really right now to talk to the whole world, like tomorrow everyone in the whole world would see your message, your what would you tell him, her,
Tell them.
them, you, yourself?
I would tell them that there is.
Tell them.
Yeah.
Please tell them, because I'm only trying to connect the dots.
Right. I would tell them that you're all connected and that you're part of this incredible miracle of creation, and that everything you do matters, and so that you have a responsibility of what you're putting into the world and what you're taking from the world, and that if you can think of yourself, because you're living on a small planet, right? We have a tendency to get arrested to our family, to our neighbors, maybe to our country. But if you could think of yourself as being on a planet that's orbiting a sun, and that sun is orbiting a galaxy, and that galaxy a cluster, and a cluster a supercluster, and so on, you realize like there's not really any lines on the planet that separates the countries. There is only human beings in this one great adventure, in this one great spaceship Earth, and we need to collaborate so that we can all move on to the next level of interaction with the universe. So let's collaborate, let's make it happen.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that you took your time and
Thank you.
shared some thoughts with me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nassim.
I
very
appreciate.
much. And thank you very much for you guys who take the time to see this movie. You take your time, you invest in your time, and to get this information and spread it, talk about it, be open for different thoughts. Don't push something down, just leave it as it is. You don't have to trust anything about it. Do your stuff, trust your inner feelings, and it will work out.
Right. It's just, You know, having an open mind doesn't mean that you're not skeptical. You have to be discerning and skeptical, but as well, you can't just come to conclusion without doing the studies. So if you think something is incorrect, then you have to do the study to prove that it's incorrect, or to prove to yourself that it is correct or incorrect. And you know, and so staying open-minded doesn't mean that you don't have discernment anymore.
You're totally right.
That's great.
So guys, thank you very much. It would be really great if you could leave a YouTube subscription and like and share. You know how this internet stuff works nowadays. Thank you very much, Nassim.
Thank you.
Thank you again. And
I appreciate. Thanks
you
for
have
having
to
me.
run again.
Yes.
Thank
Bye-bye.
Wake up inside and free your mind. Inspired about the me and the you. True information. Connect the dots. Big picture. Conscious. Tom who knows.